big deal, and I've got video of that. The 2 billion trees, you remember that? It was just meant to be inspiring. Do you feel inspired? They didn't intend on planting the trees. No, it was just an election slogan. That's it. So there you go. Woo. Yeah, 2 billion trees. That sounds really great. 2 gajillion trees didn't quite hit, right? So, but 2 billion sounded realistic, which maybe it shouldn't have, right? And exploding battery plants. Canada has invested a lot of money in battery plants. Ontario specifically has invested $43 billion in different battery plants, and a South Korean battery plant. And we were supposed to have a whole bunch of South Koreans show us how to run the battery plant. And this is a very bad sign, right? But one of the South Korean battery plants blew up. So I'll show you that, and killed a bunch of people. 22 people died, I think. Not good whatsoever. So these things, batteries, aren't, I think, the cure-all that we've been told. Anyway, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to start with the by-election because it's happening today. And PPC says, Canadians, do not forget this. Leslie Church did this to us. Now she wants re-election. Really? Absolutely no way. Vote PPC. Maxime Bernier went to jail fighting for us while all the other politicians kept quiet, he says. And Bradshaw says, do people really forget who Leslie Church worked for? Canadians paid Leslie overtime to freeze your bank accounts. Wake up. So she worked in the office of the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance for 3 years and 1 month, and that was into the Freedom Convoy. That was all through the Freedom Convoy, right? January 22. So pretty wild stuff, and Leslie Church is as loyal as they get. Brian Mulroney, you remember him? You know who his dad is? His dad is, or it's not Brian Mulroney, this is Ben Mulroney. His dad is Brian Mulroney, and Brian Mulroney had that famous speech about passing the torch back and forth, right? The baton back and forth. So it's interesting to me that Ben Mulroney is endorsing the current Conservative candidate in the Toronto riding. This is I can't remember. Is it Toronto? Oh, St. Paul, Toronto, St. Paul. That's it. And because it seems like a very uniparty kind of thing to do, right? Like we don't have good old Brian around, but we'll get the next best thing, right? Doesn't he look like him? And so anyway, Ben Mulroney says, stopped in to wish Don Stewart good luck in the by-election this week. And here is Greg to remind us, not Greg Wycliffe, the other Greg, to remind us what Brian Mulroney said. And Greg says, read what Brian Mulroney has to say about the continuity of governments of different stripes, quote, passed and accepted the torch. How did this happen? Well, it did not happen overnight, nor under one government or one political party. It happened because for the better part of almost 30 years, 4 governments of different political stripes followed similar economic policies. Isn't that weird? The essential continuity of governments from Mulroney through Chrétien and Martin to Harper explains a great deal of what is right about Canada today. No one should underestimate the value of this continuity. Serious public policy can only be conceived and practiced over decades, not 4-year terms. We've had the great fortune to see governments of differing stripes pass and accept the torch over the past 30 years. So obviously we don't have much say in what goes on, regardless of what the rhetoric of the election looks like. Right? It seems like that says, yeah, they were going to do what they were going to do. Harper signed on, and the continuity of government. And do you think Justin Trudeau is part of that machine? Yes, absolutely, 100% yes. Treason. Let's talk about treason because this is another big story in Canada. Ryan says, can you believe what you're reading? The RCMP chief wants to protect those accused of treason? Weird. Why would he want to protect those accused of treason? Hey, RCMP chief, this is CBC News. RCMP chief says he hopes MPs don't name politicians accused of aiding foreign powers in the House. MPs enjoy parliamentary privilege in the House of Commons, including freedom from arrest. So they're going through this idea that whoever knows the names, and right now it's Elizabeth May, Jagmeet Singh, and Justin Trudeau, and nobody else, could go onto the House of Commons floor and read the names without any kind of consequence. And I don't think that's actually true at this point in time, but it's a nice fantasy. And I don't think that if you walked in and you said, I'd like to read the report, please give me the thing to sign and the INSICOP thing. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'll sign all that. There you go. Above board, give me the names. And then you read the names. I don't know that they'd give them to you because they'd say, you're going to go read them on the House floor. And even if you said, no, I'm not, they might not believe you and they might not show you anyway. And if you do read it on the House floor, I think that they might arrest them. I think that whoever does, because it won't be Elizabeth May or Jagmeet Singh or Justin Trudeau. But if somebody does that, and they go and read it on the House floor, I think they might arrest them. They'll definitely kill the feed. Anybody in the House, they'll say, if you repeat those names, you're going to get in trouble. Really, Dig Dog? It wasn't just him. If you say it too, you'll be in trouble. And then anybody who reports it will be in trouble. Anybody who puts it on their social media will be in trouble. Casting disparaging remarks, you're committing, you're saying slanderous things. And so in that way, they will silence this using whatever means necessary. Does that make sense? And like, we've known about this since 2022, November 2022. I started reporting on this in earnest in March 23 when the story blew up because of CSIS leaks, right? We've known about this in a serious way since, in my opinion, March 23, and nobody's done anything about it. And they're trying to continue to do nothing about it so that us taxpayers have to pay for all of the Liberals who are going to get thrown out on their bum next election unless they can find another way to rig the election plausibly so that Canadians don't revolt. However, at this point in time, I don't think it would take much because Canadians don't seem to be interested in revolting. And not to say that I'm interested in revolting, as I've said, that would be that would definitely put a dent in my chocolate cereal futures. And so I like the idea of being able to solve this problem without violence. I'm just not convinced that there is a way to solve this problem without violence, because if you do solve this problem without violence, the other side is going to get violent. See Antifa. Right? Okay. Son of a Bench says, why is the RCMP chief wanting MPs accused of foreign interference kept silent? Is it a work issue, or is the RCMP Commissioner Mike Duheme compromised? The more leadership hides the truth, the more Canadians will question why. Yeah, yes, definitely. Here's the RCMP chief talking with Rosie Barton, and Tokyo Rosie says the RCMP Commissioner says parliamentary privilege in the House of Commons is preventing an investigation into treason. That is BS. The RCMP could have investigated Trudeau outside of the House of Commons for numerous scandals and never did. The problem is the RCMP. Yeah, this sounds like they're trying to manage us. He says, could we have done better? Yeah, we could have done better. We're in the middle of this scandal. I mean, like, the scandal started in 2023. Imagine finding out something bad was happening in 2023 and not doing anything about it for years. And then, like, saying, well, the reason is parliamentary privilege. That's the real issue here. I don't think so. I just don't think so. Here's this exchange.
The fact that there are currently people who are demanding the government release the names of parliamentarians cited in that unredacted version of the NSICOP report, how do you feel about the prospect of that happening?
Well, I'll let the government decide how they see best to do this, but I am concerned if we're starting to disclose secret or top secret information. Again, it puts in peril, it could put in peril tradecraft, partnership, especially international partnership. I'm one that I appreciate the fact that parliamentary privilege is something, and I just know about 5% of parliamentary privilege. But I think we have to be mindful how that information is shared. I don't brief the Minister of Public Safety on every single that we have, because I think there's a need to know and then a right to know, right? And there comes a threshold that, yes, I'll bring the minister in and brief him on the file, but I don't brief him on every single file. And I think we just have to approach this very cautiously.
What is your understanding then if someone, if an MP got up inside the House of Commons under parliamentary privilege and decided to reveal this information? What's your understanding of what your role would be as Commissioner of the RCMP? You couldn't do anything, or you could do something?
Well, I'm inclined to say that would be a challenge for us. If it was out in the public domain, it'd be different because you're disclosing top secret information or secret information. Let's hope we don't have to cross that that road.
Right? Interesting. Very interesting, if you ask me. And the rules exist of parliamentary privilege to make sure debate is unencumbered. And now debate is encumbered by national security, and that might be a problem for us as the RCMP. It wasn't a problem for them to give Wharton like a uniform and off-lease police cars and a whole bunch of money. And there's a whole lot of confusing, concerning things around the RCMP that make me not trust a damn thing they say. So all of that's very concerning to me. Here is the billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. My bad, not billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in scam money being paid out to fraudulent companies, companies that have some kind of tie to people who have a conflict of interest within the government and who are making decisions about these companies. So this is an exchange between Michael Cooper and Shelley Urey, and she's Sustainable Development Technology Canada, and they're trying to get to the bottom of how much money was distributed to these fraudulent people who were taking advantage of these wacky procurement deals in Canada. And she says, yeah, part of the job is to make sure the money gets distributed to the companies. That's what he's asking here. Like, you guys distributed the money as part of the package, as part of the legislature, as part of everything. Distribution of the money has happened, and she confirms, and that's where we pick it up. Here we go.
That would include getting money out the door, correct?
There are a number of initiatives, including
Simply asked,
supporting the ecosystem.
I asked if that was one of the criteria, yes or no. And you know the answer to that, and the answer is yes, but I'm going to put it to you to put that on the record.
But yes, disbursements to companies that have been approved are one of the targets for the year.
And so what we have is $319 million that were funneled by board members to companies that they had an interest in, which violated the law, which were blatant conflicts of interest, outright corruption, so that they in turn could meet bonus eligibility criteria, so that, guess what, they could pad their pockets with even more money. Now, I would characterize that as an absolute racket. It is corruption on a scale that I don't know what it's comparable to. It makes the sponsorship scandal look small by comparison.
That's pretty wild. I didn't know necessarily about the getting bonuses by inflating their contracts and things like that. I just thought that this was similar to the Arrive scam stuff, in that they were using different people in different roles to allow these companies to make more money, et cetera, and insider money, cronyism. So like, it's my company, or this guy's sitting on the board of directors, and then I sit on the board of directors for his company, and everybody's getting money from all of this, right? Headhunters are getting money, et cetera, et cetera. The layers of corruption, it's like an onion, right? It's got layers. So ogres have layers, onions have layers. It's crazy. And honestly, it seems like nobody really cares. Nobody cares. $16 orange juice got people more riled up. The news does not talk about this. $319 million in bonus, inflating contracts, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The media doesn't care. They it's like they found something really important on their shoes, right? They report about nonsense, absolute nonsense. And they leave the reporting about the really interesting stuff to me, I guess. Holly Doan says the feds acknowledge cabinet's, this is NRCan, Natural Resources Canada, acknowledge cabinet's 2019 promise to plant 2 billion trees within a decade was fake. Quote, the government sought a name that would inspire. Are you not inspired? Does this mean, this is the unclassified document that Holly Doan is referencing here. She's got a link to her article. It says, does this mean that the 2 billion trees program does not actually intend on planting 2 billion trees? And it says the government sought a name that would inspire that commitment and participation. So, right, that's correct. Blacklock's reporter says documents show 2B tree program was never going to plant 2 billion trees in 10 years as promised. It was just an election slogan. Wow, right? Like, that's incredible. It's incredible. 2 billion trees, and people got on board for it. I think I predicted at the time that they were never going to plant 2 billion trees. It was not going to happen. And here we are, right? 2024. I'm right again. And I don't prefer to be right. I wish I wasn't. Patty is sharing this. I came across this. This is a real handout given by Yasser Nakvi. And this is a map of Canada, and can you spot what's missing? Look out east, look out west. There's a whole bunch of problems with this map, right? The Yukon's gone, just completely disappeared. There's issues with Eastern Canada. The whole map is incredible, and he says color the map. I thought that the flags across the top were Israeli, Palestinian. Like I thought there was a whole bunch of different like Middle Eastern countries and stuff. And I thought I was like seeing red. It was like 5:50. It was 5 o'clock, just after 5 o'clock this morning. And I was looking at it and I was like, no, that can't be. And then I clicked into the picture and it was like, you know, provincial flags. And I was like, okay, that makes more sense. Ish. But still, the map. I was looking at the map and I thought, have I like, is this the Mandela effect? What is happening here? Is that the real map of Canada? Am I gone crazy? What year is it? Had to make sure it wasn't, you know, fast running zombies or anything to that effect. It's crazy, right? Like, welcome to Canada. And hold on, he's got a response. Oh, it was the next clip. Yasser says, "Hi, Ottawa Centre friends. Canada Day is coming, and to mark this moment, we sent a Canadian flag to you to display with pride." Did you ask AI to make the flag? Like, or not the flag, the map? Because whoever made the map has no idea what they're talking about. Jeepers creepers. But we made a mistake. The map is missing PEI and the Yukon. My team and I apologize. Yikes. Yikes. Right? Yikes. Where did PEI and the Yukon go? Right? We apologize. Yeah. Unbelievable. Please think of it as an interactive map to teach kids our geography, or to start to learn more about these amazing places. That's not a win, right? Like the Liberals on by-election day, the Liberals are putting out erroneous maps of the country. Yikes. They don't even know the geography of the country they're trying to ruin. Contrarian is responding to this. Prime Minister announces appointment of new Chief Justice of the Court of King's Bench of Alberta. So our House of Commons is infiltrated by foreign interference, treason, and we know it, and we're not allowed to ask who, because apparently that's right-wing white supremacy or something. I don't know. They'll label it whatever they want. So we're not allowed to ask about any of that. And while that institution is crumbling, while the military is crumbling, while all of our institutions, including police stations, are being infiltrated by foreign influence, according to that MP we listened to yesterday or the day before, he's leaving office and he says, you know, China is an existential threat to Canada. In the backdrop of all that, our justices, even in Alberta, are being watered down by appointments by people who have influence from foreign countries, right? Justin Trudeau. And so it's very, very concerning, because where can you get justice, and how do you suppose that you will get justice from a judge appointed by Justin Trudeau? I don't think it's possible, right? I just don't think it's possible. And so very, very concerning. Olivia Chow, I won't torture us with her awful, awful dancing. Somebody said she would do better if there was a Dance Dance Revolution, Matt. Do you remember watching Malcolm in the Middle? And when Hal went dancing with his partner, they had to get a high score in the Dance Dance Revolution thing, and they got really good at it. I don't know. That was less damaging than, oh my gosh, they're doing it again, than watching Elizabeth May dance with the drag queen, right? Hal danced better than the drag queen, that's for sure. And Olivia Chow, I mean, Elaine dances better than Olivia Chow. Here is Ollie London, and Canadians like being noticed, right? But we've been noticed for all the wrong reasons. We love it when people point out free healthcare, like, oh, we're on The Simpsons and they're talking about free healthcare and it's so funny, ha ha ha. They don't like it when we get noticed for ridiculous things like Olivia Chow dancing with the drag queen and having a full-blown Arab Spring in Toronto. Anyway, Ollie London says mobs take over the streets of Toronto in a show of force against the city's Jewish population. Whose streets? Our streets. Meanwhile, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow was wildly dancing on a stage last night with a drag queen to the song We Are Family. Oh, Canada, right? Like, yay. Ugh. If we just leave the party now and don't make eye contact with anybody, do you think they'll notice? They've already noticed. Here is the RCMP commissioner. This is the one where he says we could have done more. So this is talking about the protests in the streets, et cetera, et cetera. This is the clip where he says we could have done more. Sorry about that. I got the clips messed up. But here they're talking about all of the protests, et cetera, and he's admitting that they can do more, could have done more, should have done more, aren't doing more. Here we go.
Are you concerned about the increase in hate crimes and the increase in what many in the Jewish community have described as intimidating activity outside their homes, outside their synagogues, outside places other than the Israeli embassy or Israeli consulates?
Yeah, I am concerned because we've seen a spike since October, and this is no different than all chiefs of police from across the country. But we're working collaboratively together, and we're addressing the situation the best we can.
Do you feel the law is being enforced as it could be?
I think we could probably do more. I think we could probably do more and a little bit more aggressive when we're looking at what kind of charges that can be laid to a certain individual. And I share this with many people that protesting in front of a member of Parliament's office is one thing, or in Parliament Hill is another. But when you're protesting in front of a resident of an elected official or a senior government official, I think that's where you cross the line, and that's intimidation and even harassment. And I think we have to be more aggressive. And
just here in Ottawa last week, there was an upside-down triangle painted on the Jewish Community Centre. The upside-down triangle is a military symbol that Hamas and related military units use to mark targets. I know the RCMP are looking into that. Can you tell me if you have any information or how aggressively you're pursuing that?
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that they have to inform the public about what that means, because if we were in a place where that was something that we had to worry about, we'd know what it means. And it's interesting further that this whole idea of Jewish Canadians need to be protected, the right for pro-Palestinian protests to go forward is unquestioned, apparently, right? Even though if you compare it to the Freedom Convoy, they don't compare. The pro-Palestinian protests are violent, where the Freedom Convoy was only violent when the police were violent against the protesters. So, there's a lot of really interesting juxtapositions, things that you would think would make the police act one way when, in fact, they're acting another way. And the whole idea is to wedge us. The whole idea is to drive us. If you're in Canada, you either support Israel or Palestine. And if you support Canada, you're a bigot. And I'm going to say again, I don't support any of this. I don't support any of this. I think anybody breaking the law should be held accountable for breaking the law. Anybody who is being aggressive and violent, doesn't matter what they're protesting or who they're protesting, et cetera, they should be arrested for being violent, et cetera. And what the police are doing is normalizing this kind of stuff and saying oh yeah, we're really concerned about it, blah, 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 blah. But they're not actually doing anything to restore sanity to anything. They're just barely keeping the simmer under wraps. And it's boiled over a few times. And even though it's boiled over a few times, they use that to reinforce the wedge. Nobody's cooling things off because the fever pitch is actually working to continue to propagate this self-replicating thing, and they want those feelings to self-replicate, so they keep self-replicating them. So as somebody gets upset at Jewish people and pro-Palestinian people commit an act of violence or something like that, people get incensed and pissed off and blah 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 blah, and people on the one side say, we have to crack down, and people on the other side say it's not enough, and the emotions get inflamed on both sides, and nobody's closer, and Canada is not spoken about whatsoever. And that's my main problem, because the whole thing doesn't have a thing to do with Canada. We can't solve the problem. We're never going to solve the problem. Having the protest here makes zero sense. It's just a distraction, and it's just like Black Lives Matter and the people who were pulling down the statues. That was a sanctioned thing. It's just like the railroad blockades. You can't throw burning debris onto railroad tracks, but they could. Why? Because it was a sanctioned protest, and these people are allowed to continue all of the mayhem and chaos. Why? Because it's a sanctioned protest. This is helping the government continue to drive the wedge, continue to sow chaos, and destabilize our society. And that's the point. So that's what they're doing. Andy Lee says, I'm old enough to remember when the police turned off our speakers to try and stop us from talking on Parliament Hill about democracy on Canada Day. And Andy Lee's sharing this tense situation here as we leave Parliament Hill. Police have turned our speakers off. This is a powder keg. And Son of a Bench says, all out for Gaza rally in Toronto. They're now claiming the streets belong to them at Yonge and Dundas. So do you see how they, in one side, crack down on Canadian patriotic protesters, and on the other side, turn a blind eye to people who are trying to destabilize our society, right? The difference is one is trying to unite the country behind sanity and get rid of the people who are trying to wreck things, and these people are just trying to wreck things. And that's the difference. That's it. That's the difference. So, and that's the reason that we're not allowed to fix things, because having us in a sense, having us wedged and fighting amongst each other about Israel and Palestine, we hand the country over to them. We hand the country over to whoever wants it, and whoever wants it currently sitting in. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to canadapoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful